Slightly different type of video I'm going to be showing this time. This is a product review of some yarn that I purchased from Andrew and Lorianne of Annfield Farm, an extremely local farm dealing in mohair as well as standard wool. So we have little cards in here giving the history. A fairly new business who have just gone from strength to strength in terms of the product that they're creating. At the time when I bought this, they were just starting out with the undyed yarn. I think now they may have some colours. It's 100% local. The mohair's from a no-kill flock. The goats stay with them until the end of their lives. The yarn is transformed as close to the farm as possible to limit transport emissions. Wool's never mixed with plastic, so no nylon or polyester. 100% natural products. It's never bleached and it's packaged from recyclable material, which is completely compostable. Very eco-considerate business that they're setting up. I bought two different bases from them. The first is the 50/50 mohair Shetland, which is a DK weight. And this one is also DK and it's 100% Scottish wool. Now I hand knit also, and it's not a particularly toothy wool to the skin, which is nice because I have had some 100% pure wool yarns that you would definitely need an under slip or vest to prevent it from being on the skin. This isn't fluffy soft, but then I wouldn't expect it to be. But it's definitely a lot softer than most 100% wool yarns that I've tried. I'm going to get these caked up and I'm going to give these a go on the knitting machine and pair them with some yarn. Finished on the machine, I've done my graft. I'm going to go and give this a block. However, I have to admit that it didn't work on the standard gauge. The DK from this yarn is a lot thicker than the last yarn that I used, which was an acrylic DK, and comparing the two, there was a definite difference of thickness. So just something to keep in mind, that some DKs would work on your standard gauge, others won't. You just have to give it a try. So I ended up putting this onto my chunky using card 1, knit in this direction, and I think I used a tension 3 or 2 and 2 dots. So it's given a nice fabric. I'm going to go and give it a wash and hopefully wear it for the dog walk later on. The overview of these products is much to what I expected. The 100% pure wool and the wool mohair mix. Whilst I expected them to not be plushy soft, they're just a little bit too prickly for me on my skin. It's not to say I can't use the yarn. I could put it into something like socks or mitts, or even have a go with making a cushion perhaps to attempt felting. The yarn itself, in terms of application to the knitting machine, went well once I managed to figure out the right gauge, but we have to keep in mind these yarns are meant for hand knitting, so the yarn has no treatment, so there's no oil or waxing or anything in these to assist the machine with the knitting process. That's not to say you can't wax it or spray it whilst it's being caked before it's used on the machine. I didn't do that just to see how it would work. My machine took it well. I ended up putting it onto the chunky. This is the stockinette swatch of the pure wool on a tension 3, which I think is likely to bloom a little bit more, so I'm not too worried about the looser fabric. If I was going to do socks, I would probably try and put that tension down to make a denser fabric. The main con I found with the yarns was the amount of shedding. Again, to be expected with an all 100% natural product. There was a lot of shedding during the caking process. There was a lot of shedding during the knitting process. That just means that when you're making an item on the machine, you probably would have to get the hoover out a little bit more than usual. Overall, I'm very happy with my purchases. And if you're interested in finding out more about Annfield Farm, I'll put links to their social media accounts down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a comment, and until the next time, you've been watching Button Mouse the Wee Machine Knitter.